Hello everyone, welcome to the LARP Tales podcast. My name is Oliver, I am one half of your hosting duo. With me, as always, is my co-host Robyn. LARP Tales is our series of podcasts where we talk about our adventures in LARP. On this episode, we are going to be completing our recap of Empire LARP E4. That's the fourth and final event of 2024. Before we get into the recap though, the usual housekeeping: if you are watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, click that subscribe if you are new to the Two Having to Roll channel so you know when new content comes your way. If you're on a audio platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us a 5-star review. Go check out the Patreon. You can also support us by using our referral link for Empire LARP. If you fancy coming along, you will get £15 off if you use that link on your first Empire LARP event. And with all that out of the way, let's get into our recap of Empire LARP E4. Okay, Robyn, so last we had left the recap, we were just about to head into the Sunday battle. This recap's coming a little bit later than usual as well, because we've been LARPing like crazy this year, haven't we?
We have, at the start of the year, we end up signing up to so many LARPs, and we were doing that thing where we're like, oh, that's not till October, that's not till August, that's not till this, it's fine. And then now we're here and we've got like every single weekend is like a LARP or an event.
Yeah.
And it's been crazy.
Yeah, no, it's been a full, I think November and possibly May were the only months this year we don't actually have any LARP going on.
Yeah.
Apart from that, we've had there's a maybe in December. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that yet, but yeah, I don't know whether we'll be able to keep up that pace next year, to be honest.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, it's been, we've been in a position like recently where it's just like we've just life where we just went, F it, and just went and did tried a load of different LARPs and whatnot. We've been to like Eversley like 4 times this year.
Oh yeah, I'm loving Eversley actually.
Yeah.
We've had some really good ones there.
Yeah, no, it's great. We're just back from a Game of Thrones LARP at Eversley. It was just called A Dragon's Hunt, and it was probably one of my favorite ever LARPs, if not right up there with my favorite. To be honest, it was absolutely fantastic. We're not here to talk about that one though.
Should we just talk about that one instead?
Yeah, I kind of do want to talk about that one, but everyone's.
It's Game of Thrones. There was way less death.
there was actually way less death. Yeah. So, but you've got all that to look forward to. We'll do some recaps of some of the other LARPs that we've done. We've done a ton of player events this year. As well. So yeah, next year's we'll be coming back to Empire next year, and there is a new fest LARP called Men Here's Fate that's up and coming next year as well. So we'll probably try out at least one of those games, I imagine. We'll probably want to go back to Eversley at least once or twice next year as well. So yeah,
so what you're saying is, even though you just said I'm not too sure if we could do another year like this, what you're saying is we're going to do another year like this, but we're also going to chuck in another fest LARP as well.
No, I don't want that.
Because you just added more LARPs.
You say that, but like, because this year we went, we did several, like half a dozen player events at the start of the year. Plus a load.
We're gonna do that again, right?
Yeah, plus a load. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think we might have to trade the player events for some of the other LARPs. Because I'm really enjoying it. Because the first couple of years that we LARPed, we only did Empire, and I'm really enjoying doing other LARPs as well. But stay tuned for updates on those content coming out about the ones that we've been to that isn't Empire. But let's get into the base. I'm not trying to stall, but we basically just got the battle to talk about today, because Sunday this was something else, right? Should we just recap what we got up to?
Let's recap what we've gotten up to and where we're going on this battle.
Okay, so so we are heading to Tharunin, the Druj have attacked Thorunin in the east. We had suspected that we knew the Druj were going to be coming back. We didn't know where or when they were going to strike, but they struck at Thorunin, which is a Navarre territory. Last summit, we had fought them. They had poisoned part of the... Well, technically, we poisoned it. They poisoned part of...
Technically, we poisoned
Yeah,
it.
because it was like a battle. So if you listen to our E3 recap, there was like a cauldron that we basically had to stop them from using. But what happened was the field marshal just spilt it. So basically, instead of it
Kicked
being...
it. Kicked
Yeah,
it over.
kicked it. Yeah, kicked it over. So part of Thorunin is now like under this poisoned effect. But the Druj are still in and around Thorunin. So the battle opportunity we took was in Thorunin against the Druj. We had Dawn, Navarre, which two of the three biggest nations in the Empire, and we had Urizen and Varushka on
and
this
Imperial
battle.
Orcs.
And the Imperial
Orcs.
Orcs. Yeah, I forgot the Imperial Orcs were with us. Yeah, was Varushka with? Yeah, no, it definitely was Varushka.
Definitely was Varushka.
definitely was Urizen. Definitely Imperial Orcs. Yeah. Sorry, we're like 3 weeks. We're almost 4 weeks out now. From doing this recap, we're
gonna do our best, okay?
We're gonna do our best. Well, I mean, it's stuck in my mind a lot of this battle. So the objectives were pretty straightforward. It was basically one objective. There's several objectives, but they're all in one place. There was like 2 rituals going off, but they were happening one after the other at the same regio, and we had to kill a ritualist, but the ritualist was going to be at the regio. So basically, the idea was to get to the regio. That was
fast.
That's all we
get
kind
there
of
quickly
had to do. Really. So we had a good idea that the regio was going to be in the woods, so it was just a matter of the plan. The plan, as of like Saturday evening, was to everybody, all nations, go in, get into the woods together, and just attack that regio.
It was that was the idea. Instead of having like a staggered sort of entrance, was just to have all of us just race each other there, basically everyone get there together as one huge block, just to completely demolish the regio, because that was the idea. Didn't quite happen like that.
Well, it kind of did.
Us and Navarre got there, didn't we? Or did we all get there?
No. Well, no, quite. We'll take it a step at a time. So we get through the we get through the gate, and we make fast progress up the field. It feels like it was a little bit wibbly wobbly, kind of getting up there. It wasn't quite a clean sweep as it was the previous battle, just getting up onto that field, because the previous one, although I mentioned when I said we were in Thorunin last time, Dawn wasn't. Dawn was fighting the Grendel last event. So we when we swept that field with against the Grendel last time, we did it like surgically, didn't we? You know, it was just like, because we had a lot of different nations as well, went bang 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 up there. So
we just like, it was a nice clean sweep. This battle though, if I'm remembering correctly, Dawn were supposed to be hiding up and then heading through Midgate, I think, into the actual woods, which is weird. In my head, I thought, for some reason, I expected us to actually just go straight into the woods, but we were to go through Midgate into the woods. We did end up getting pulled out onto the field quite a bit more, and we end up cleaning up a lot of the field. When I don't think we were really supposed to be cleaning the field at that point.
I just want to point out as well, like, now you're speaking like crew jargon, like after doing the reffing last time, because like usually we call it the breach, but now you're like, oh, Midgate and Topgate.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, now I've got a bit of a better map in my head. It's not 100%. Okay, it's definitely not. But I've got a bit of a map there now, and I'm like, okay, and everything does feel a bit smaller now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So yeah, it was a bit. But one of the funny things that happened was the differences between like Dawn and Navarre. Devon Yeah, we're not
Oh, it turned into that at the end.
we're not shipping that. So like Dawn and Navarre, Dawn and Navarre haven't fought in a while, and it's weird because you constantly forget that some players, they haven't got the same amount of kind of play experience as others, because I remember fighting with Dawn quite a lot, like a couple of years ago.
Navarre.
With Navarre a couple of years ago. I'm sorry, everyone. With Navarre, like quite a few times a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
you could tell there was a few Navarri that were just completely baffled by how Dawn fought.
Oh yeah, like once upon a time, Dawn and Navarre in my head were a bit of a dream team. I remember those battles where we swept the field and the woods together because we just really played well on each other's strengths. But isn't this the first time we fought with Navarre in like over a year?
It's been a while, yeah. I would
Yeah.
say it's because usually Navarre and Wintermark being like two big ones get and Dawn has been fighting with the smaller nations
Yeah.
recently. But yeah, there was a there was a moment where, because I think that the way Navarre do things is they have a bit more of an organized command structure than we do, or they have a command structure. So it was quite funny when I mean we do in Dawn, but you kind of know my I've talked about a lot on this podcast, but like there was a moment where
Oh, I know what you're gonna say. I remember this.
like we're up by like the breach or Midgate, and with like there's a load of Dornish like fight, so just chasing a few of them into the woods because they were kind of just going to harass us. We were like, we'll just chase them into the woods. We're picking them off, and this Navari comes up and is like, it's like it comes up. It's like who's in charge, and I'm just like. I don't know. Like to me, I was like, I don't know, because I literally just do my own thing. I wasn't seconding this time, so I was just doing my own thing. I was like, I don't know. I was like, what? I was like, I can. She's like, oh, who's in charge of this lot? I was like, I can be, if you want. And they're like, oh yeah, we want you through the gate. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, don't get through the gate. And everyone just like does as I said. And they were like, I thought you said you weren't in charge. And I'm like, I'm not. And then they're like, oh, what unit are you with? I'm like, you don't know how Dawn works, right? I was like,
They
I'm my
were
own
the person
unit.
that came up, I think, was one of the runners for the
Most
field
likely,
marshal.
yeah, most
They
likely,
were
yeah,
either a runner for the field marshal or one of the
or a
seconds for the field
second, yeah,
marshal. Yeah, I think they might have been a second actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's a good idea when you have a big, a big nation like Dawn. I think having a Dawnish member on the field marshal unit is a good idea, so that so they know how things kind of work, because that's the thing with Dawn. It's part of our brief not to like fight in our organized little blocks, because we are a nation of like individual like heroes that all seek glory. Like I wouldn't expect we don't really I know some houses do have
Yeah.
right, we're going to have our lance, and we're going to not I do know there are some groups that literally vote in their lance captain for that summit and things like that. That's all good, but most of the Dornish characters don't play that way. Most of us will just be like, no, I'm going to do my own thing.
And I think a lot of the groups that do it that way are groups that have it written into their background, in a sense that, for example, that they were part of another nation and then they moved into Dawn, and that's why they would have a fighting style that is similar to how another group would do. Because I know a lot of groups do that as well, but most of Dawn is like a swarm.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think I described them last time as like a herd of cattle or something. That just like just come on, get through. So getting into the woods was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, your dad was with us as well.
Yeah.
Like,
So the first thing I said to Dad, I was like, hey, so I took him around the Dawn camp in the morning and I introduced him to like a load of people. So I introduced him to the Desandres, I took him into Castellan and let him and introduced him to like Baldwin. I took him basically to groups that had really distinctive things on them, took him over to Defrost and everything. And I was like, right, you've now seen all these people. We tend to get through that gate and just swarm out, especially Oliver and I, we tend to run off a lot. So if you lose sight of us, jump in with one of these groups. They're all really good and you'll have a lot of fun. So we got to the gate and we were meant to be with Zoran. So we were like hanging out with Orzel and we're like, where's Zoran? And he's like at the top of the field. So we're like, okay, we're running through this gate. So from the second we get through the gate, we're like flat out up this field. We get to Zoran and like dad's at our shoulders, like, hello, this is fine. And just started like, and when we were clearing the field, he was like, this is great fun. Like running in, no armor on, by the way, like zero armor. A sword, just one-handed sword. And that was it. Off he went. And he was, he got healed quite a lot, which was really good. I think he got a cleave to the leg really quickly and he role played all that out and everything, went down onto the ground, and then he got healed and brought back up again. And then he got given some potions and shown how to use them and everything. So people just kept giving him things. It was great. He was, loving it.
yeah, because as soon as we got through that gate, it got a bit crazy. So like, I think like E1, I was in the field marshal block. E2, I was second for Dawn. E3 in the field marshal block. So this time I was like, I'm not doing any of that type of thing. So it was just, I just wanted to go have fun and hit stuff. But it didn't really turn into that much fun, you know.
I think what you're saying is you should really be part of the leadership.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that had anything to do with it. But the record might show. No, I'm kidding. Like, I don't think it would have made that much. Difference.
No, not for this fight. It was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So
yeah, but we got to the field, and then eventually, we ended up just heading in through the woods as we were all called back into the woods and reminded of our actual objective, which was in the woods.
Yeah, in the
woods.
Well, this is where the plan divulged. Obviously, from not divulged. Divulged. What is wrong? Why don't I know words today?
It's fine. It's just a podcast. You don't need words.
No. What word am I even trying to say? Diverted?
Diverge?
Okay, so this is where the plan diverged from let's all go into the woods together. From what I understood, because I didn't see it because I was at the front, Varushka and Urizen stayed at the breach to defend it. I'm assuming we were getting harassed quite badly. I mean, we probably should have been left to kill those Druge, before we went through the gate, but whatever. So going through the gate, so that left because the orcs were with us, or did they get split? I think they got split between both.
Imperial orcs. They had to have been with us.
Yeah,
they had to have been with us because I know that at the end when we came back out in the field, they were already out on the field, but I think it was because they got back out on the field first. I'm sure they were with us because we were with them right at the end, so they had to have been with us. Yeah.
So I think my dog, Aria, our dog, is like snoring right next to us, so you might pick it up on the mic. Who knows? You have a snoring dog in the background. So the Druge didn't have. Sorry, there was roaming monsters as well. There was like huge, great big. There was like crabby kind of insect monsters, a bit like the big lobsters that we fought before, and they had these huge, great big beetles with they had like batons on them, but they were doing like strike down, and they were like huge, but they weren't with the Druge. They were just roaming monsters. But the Druge, annoyingly, were way better at like steering them at us than we were steering at them.
Yeah. Because really early on, this thing was terrifying. Okay, it was huge. Don't know who was in the suit for this. You did a great job. You were terrifying, but they were just walking around. It was just like strike down, strike down, strike down, strike down, and I went down so many times. And because everybody, typical, we all ran in and started fighting it, and then very soon we realized we ain't getting this down. But we could use it to our advantage and we could just get behind it because they couldn't turn very easily. So by getting behind it and trying to aim it over to the Druge, that was what we tried to do. But like you said, the Druge were really good at just sending it right back to us.
Yeah, well, annoyingly, the Druge were they weren't too bothered by them, so they weren't scattering. Where it was getting pushed into us, and we were scattering like flies, away from them. And the problem was, what was happening was that I know this is what got a load of the Imperial Orcs, is that the monster literally struck them down into Drew's lines. You know, they were already fighting Drew's lines, and then the monster came in up behind them and then was striking them down, and then they were just getting splatted. One thing we didn't mention at the start was that when we recapped it last time, we mentioned it, but the woods were under a Valor miasma, which meant that when you were in the woods, you were under the effects of venom, so your bleed count goes down to 30 seconds. So you have a base in Empire, you have a base bleed count of 3 minutes. So you go to 0, then you're bleeding out for 3 minutes, and then you're dead. Venom means that it's reduced to 30 seconds, you know, unless you have ranks of fortitude. But even then, like a rank of fortitude. So I had Hunger the Draugr on me, which increased my fortitude. So that gave me an extra 10 seconds. Only an extra 10 seconds. Obviously, in normally it would give me an extra minute, but under the effects of but 10 seconds could mean life or death.
Yeah, definitely, especially in this fight.
Yeah, so it's because what I wanted was fight tooth and nail, but we couldn't get that. We couldn't afford to get that done, so we quickly got Hunger of the Draugr put on us. I think it was just me and Lucan got Hunger of the Draugr put on us. But yeah, so when people were going down, they only had like usually like 30 seconds in the woods. That just made everything just so much more deadly in there. It was probably about this point that things just started going to shit, right? It was this was when it really started to like feel like we were properly up against it. So like we were getting hit left, right, and center by the monsters. Then we found the Regio, and then it's when we all started to, you know, get to the Regio and started defending it while they were trying to kill them. So I didn't see, so because we literally spoke to like Kira, who was playing the ritualist that we had to kill. I didn't see them, but from like her side of the story and what I heard in character from our side is that they got to the Regio and the ritualist just bolted, like just off, just went. So that I think that kind of drew us out a bit, and like it spread us out as they were chasing the ritualist out to the other end of the field, while we're obviously like then stuck at that that Regio. And by the time everyone came back after getting the ritualist, I think that's when we were getting like surrounded. So trying to fight on the fronts, I don't know what it was. Like I've never experienced anything like that.
So
go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say there's something I forgot to mention as well. We did something different in this battle for Dawn. I was supposed to say Dawn there. We did something different in this battle for Dawn, where we have our 4 Knight Protectors. And in the Glory Square, before we headed out into the actual battle itself, Starash stood up and pointed out the 4 Knight Protectors to everyone. So myself being the Knight Protector of Winter, and basically was using us as like points. So if things go badly, if you need to get to someone, if you need to get information, to head to one of us basically, and gave us a bit of control out there. Now, I think it actually works really well. And I think in future battles, this is definitely something that could be utilized more. This battle though was just so difficult. And I had a lot of people coming up being like, oh, we're getting killed over here. We need more people. And like the amount of people coming up to me saying that. And I was like, look, we're thin everywhere. At this point, because before I'm always like, okay, we're done. Let's charge them down. At this battle, I was like, nobody should be charging anyone down at this point in time, because we are so thin and so spread out that we need to start circling them all back together. So there was a few moments there where we had like a really thin line of Dawn and a lot of Druids. Like you could stand there and you could just see the amount of reinforcements they had behind them, and we had nothing behind us. And it was quite scary until Dawn and Navarre kind of lumped in together. That's why I laughed at what you called them earlier, because we basically did. We all grouped in together. Before I knew it, I turned around, I had a load of Navarre standing behind me listening to me, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. gonna treat you like Dawn. Let's do this.
Yeah. It's weird you saying that because that wasn't my experience at all. Like my
No.
experience was no, I thought we had heavy lines in Dort. Like, I didn't feel like we were like too stretched at all. Like, there was points where I was like, we should be winning. Like we should be. I don't know what it was. Like like there was several times. I don't know where people. But it didn't feel like anybody's fight. It didn't feel like people weren't fighting correctly or anything like that. I felt like we had the entire units. I mean, there was we've had fights this year where we've had like two lines of fighters in the front that won't rotate out and they'll just stand there, and then you've got fighters behind them. I felt like we had decent positioning when
Yeah.
we had decent lines of Druge with loads of loads of Dornish and Navari behind us, and we were trying to punch, but they just weren't moving. Like they weren't. We kept going forward, and then we would just back up, and they weren't doing like the Druge false charge either.
Yeah, they
They were
didn't do any of
hammering
that.
us hard, and it was, which I don't think it was off the brief, because they had us surround, that they were going in for the kill, which
Oh
is
yeah.
part of the Druge brief. So so we got there was a horrible bit where we got caught in the because they had these like the wooden walls, like barricades, and we were fighting along
Oh
that, and the
God.
whole time, like I think Zoran was like, if you can convince, like, tell them to get out of there, and I did say to them, I was like, you might want to get away from the get away from the barricade, and they were like, well, where are we gonna go? They obviously just said no, and I was like, okay, but it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. I was like, oh, don't
It
get
was
in
like,
there, and they got, because they got, as soon as our line started going backwards, they just got absolutely hammered into that corner. There was people like scrambling around the wall as they got hit against that wall. It was awful to see. It was like that thing, it was going to happen, and you couldn't do anything about it. You were just like, oh, this is going to be brutal when the Druze come around this corner.
yeah, that's the thing. I noticed the Jewish were doing that a lot, actually. They were, so like you said, we'd have like a strong Dawnish group. We're charging into them, they were hitting them hard. But the Druge were splitting off around the side. They were just so fast, and they were cutting off group after group after group. They were all just getting cut off. It is the only time in a battle that I have ever moved an entire lance out of the front line. The only time I've ever done that, because it was that moment we had that whole tree behind us on the ground. Like you said, there was so much around us, and there was a huge group there, and they were getting ready to charge. And all I could see was these Druge sneak round the side. And I was like, no, screw this, forget it. It doesn't matter. If they get somewhere ground here, that doesn't matter. We need to get out of here. And I literally got an entire lance to walk round the tree and come away from it and step back. And they were like, they're going to get ground though. And I was like, we're going to have to give it to them, because if you don't, that group there are going to cut you off and your entire lance will be dead. We need to do it, and I hate it as well. We just didn't. If we charge at them now, they're going to circle around, they're going to cut us off, we're going to have no escape, and no one's running over that tree in a hurry.
Yeah, there was what I think there was one moment of just like desperation where we had to. Thankfully, there was a few, because I was trying to be so aggressive and being like, come on, like trying to inspire people just to like just push and just don't let them have any more ground. There was one moment we were at almost the little pathway, and we start pushing them back into the pathway, because I'm like, if they just start spilling out of this choke point, we're fucked basically, and so I was pushing and pushing, and I was shouting at them, and the amount of times I was trying to say inspiring shit and I was just getting hammered as well. And I think you and I think like Tristan came up and was just like, you both going,
Oh,
like,
Tristan
you were
went
going
like,
like full fucking changeling, I was just like,
oh yeah,
that's what we need, but it still wasn't enough. Like, it was like
yeah, when you were standing there, you were being all inspiring. Tristan came running up, and myself and Tristan went running in just with the big swords, just banging each one of them down, chucking them back. And we have people behind us, like, still, this isn't enough. Like, the two of us have just taken out like 6 of them between us, and it's not enough. We can't get any further forward here.
I just
I got one cool moment though.
God.
Okay, so I was at one of those bits where I think it was just off from where that fallen tree was, and it was the group of Druge that had gone round to the side to try and flank round. I was like, I reckon I could get them. And I went round, and the people that were there were all Navarre. So it was like a Navarre group that was there. So like a striding, perhaps. And I 100% criticize them for not knowing how Dawn works. I'm like, a striding? So
A striding is like their
a
groups.
striding's like a family group. So it wouldn't be like a fighting group, no?
Well, I mean, they call themselves thorns. I don't know what they call their specific units. I think
Mm.
not all of them have because obviously, like much of build blocks, we have lances. So I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure what they call their units. I don't know.
Well, a Navarre fighting unit was there, and I kind of came out in front of them, and I thought, if we can actually cut them, we can charge everyone here down. And I turned to them all, and I was like, any of you think you could beat me through there? And they all just went, okay, let's go for it. I was like, let's go. And then I like charged at them. And then all these Navarre started like charging past me and like cutting them down. I was like, this is so cool. Like a Navarre unit have just charged this entire like block of Bruges at the side. I was like, this is badass. That's so cool. And they all came out of that part there alive, and we managed to just, but again, it was like we were just chewing at the edges of this, and nothing was making a big impactful difference.
Yeah, the small victories were nothing, because it was just a war of attrition that we were losing slowly, you know. And obviously, so we're in the woods, and this is where, so that then I think this is the point where it gets really, really bad. So
Yeah.
we then get basically surrounded in the Regio. So we have the entirety of the Navarre fighting force, the entirety of the Dawn fighting force, which is most people on that field, right?
Yep.
So we are then like crammed into this space to the point where I'm like, okay, you don't need to find anyone, because you weren't like, where's the field marshal? Because you're just like, okay, well, the field marshal's right there. We're all together. I mean, there's one point where the Navarro just like Dawn, do you need to be here? I'm like, we haven't got anywhere else to go. Because the fact that we're here means that it's bad.
Yeah. It's bad, everyone.
Yeah. So we didn't have an exit. So the Druze were blocking the exits, and unfortunately we had a first aid issue.
Yeah,
I think we
quite a
had
big
a
one.
couple actually, but one of the main ones that was tricky in this situation was that, like, we had, where we were all clustered, someone had gone down out of character, and they needed to bring the ambulance in, so they
Yeah.
needed to move a load of bodies. And so obviously we're still fucked, because they've got us like pinned. Basically, the Druze have got us pinned between where the Regio is and where this first aid call is going down, that they have like a little time freeze going on. So we're like buffeted against this. The Druze aren't letting up at all. Then like people, so we had refs being like, obviously they were told to move us like 20 yards,
Yeah.
or was it 20 meters? And regardless,
It was yards.
yeah, they were like, right, you need to move 20 yards, and we were all like, 20 yards is inside the enemy. Like, that's into the enemy.
Because
Like,
they were like, oh, don't worry, they're going to move as well. And I was like,
they,
can they move first?
yeah, it'd be great if you could tell the Druze just to go away for a second. It was,
Yeah.
it,
Take
again,
them on a little walk around the outside and bring them back.
yeah,
This is a lot.
it was difficult, because like having like experienced the reffing the day before, um, basically when you do like a time freeze on a certain area, right, things can happen, right, like because the rest of the game is still going on while these players and monsters are stopped static, which can definitely change the outcome. It definitely does, 100% does.
Yeah.
But the reason why they don't just stop the entire game is, obviously, one, it's difficult to just stop an entire field, and two, it stalls the entire day. So if you've got everybody standing around for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes of the battle, which is like 2 hours. 10 minutes is a long time in the battle, you know, so
Yeah.
that can have knock-on effects for the rest of the day. But I don't know, I feel like in that specific situation where they had most of us all clustered in, most of the entire, and we later found out that we were the only ones on the field anyway, but they had most of the Imperial combatants on the field in that little bit. they probably could have just time froze us for a bit and just moved us while we were time frozen, because that was the panic. That's what started the panic,
Yeah.
was the fact that they were going, right, you lot move closer to the enemy. We're like, but if we move away from our friends, we're gone. We're just dead.
It was really confusing because some people were under the time freeze, but then they were moving us around, and then the monster players were still hitting us, and we're like, but are we or is this a time freeze? It was really confusing. Most of us have gone out of character at this point because we're like, oh, this is turning into a real life crush situation, and none of us are really happy here. I think that hindsight's wonderful and all, but in this situation, I think that doing a time freeze would have actually sped everything up rather than delaying it.
Or
I think if they
just move the Imperial forces, because basically, the time free, the first aid thing meant that there was like an invisible out of character barrier behind us. We had nowhere to run. So it was like, but what they could have done is just got which I think did happen. Like, a lot of the monsters were backing off anyway.
Yeah,
I know for a fact there was a couple of units of monsters that were just like, yeah, this is pointless us running in there because we're just gonna. Thing is, there were so many Imperials. If they had wiped us out, and I've heard from several people that yes, we had to be meta saved in that position because they would have just taken out 2 entire nations. Like, that was the thing. They would have been the entirety of Dawn and Navarre would have just been gone. Because that was the situation we were in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was so grim. And so anyway, after that, once it was clear that we were like, right, okay, we're far enough away from this first aid situation. Like, now we need to try and figure out what the plan is. So obviously no one knows what to do. There's only one thing to do, and that's go home. Like, we've been successful at this point. So the mission, the objectives were a complete success. But we need to get home, right? So we are trapped, and the Druge are just like circling sharks at this moment, and they've been told, basically, out of character, been told, let the Imperials pass, basically, as in, don't just stop playing, but they need to get out of this area.
Give them a chance to get closer to that gate, basically. Let them just get close enough so they backed off, because it was around about this time that we found out that we were alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently, the Varushka and Urizen had experienced the same thing at the gate. That apparently they had got surrounded, and they were getting absolutely hammered. And I think also there was a first aid call there as well, which made things a bit spoopy. And then they were basically let off the field, so they went. So it was literally only Dawn and Navarre, and I'm assuming maybe a couple of Imperial Orcs left on the entire battlefield. So we got a little bit of space, and now it's a case of fighting our way back. And we were still, it wasn't if they just stood back and just like let us go. Eventually they let us to the breach, but it was a fight to get out. So while all this was just like, right, what are we doing? What direction? Because we had to, even though they gave us a little bit of leeway, what it felt like this anyway. This is a lot of just me like perceiving what was going on.
It felt like the refs were trying their absolute hardest in this moment to make sure that we didn't lose 2 full nations. They were trying. And we also know that the EMUs were also trying, because we know that they were waiting back for this.
Yeah. So, but what they didn't give us, the players, they didn't give us the direction that was safe to go, because what was happening was that the Druge then gave us space, and we were like still playing. So we're like, well, that's obviously a trap. You know what I mean? There was like a clear, like, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to back away from this specific area. We're like, yeah, who's going to be the first idiots to walk into that open space? So so the fight here at this, when we're all in this like pocket, was just the most ridiculous fighting I've ever experienced at Empire on those fields. Because usually when a unit loses and gets wiped, one of a few things is probably happened, right? One of the main one is you're cut off, you're overextended, or the enemy cut you off. 2 is just real bad luck and you're outnumbered, you know.
Yeah.
This time though, we had 2 full nations, right, against these lines of Druge, and it wasn't inexperienced players, it wasn't underpowered players. I saw some really powerful players, and I know what they have. People were like, I was just gulping down Scott's Mead, Filters of Strength. I was running in, just go, just like shatter, 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 just to stop them pushing us, not to push out. You were just going, that bit's in trouble. I'm just going to run in there, shatter, 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 just to slow things down. And I just saw, yeah, characters that I know that are real powerful, just firing everything they had. They were firing repels, weaknesses. They were just mages, just shattering, just constantly strike downs. Like people were using everything they had, wasn't it? And we would that was the scary thing as well, because we were all running out of resources as well. So we were like, we're throwing everything at these troops, and they're not budging, And it was just,
remember, we are still under the effects of venom.
Yeah,
we are still under those effects at this point.
Mm.
And it's one of these things that we kind of always say, venom doesn't kill you. Going down, getting left kills you. In this situation, it was very likely that a lot of people could have gone down and there was no way of saving them.
No, exactly, because healers were running out of resources, people were running out of hero points and mana. It was dire, and you just saw like 2 entire nations just throwing everything they had just to try and get out of this situation. No one wanted to be at the front.
Yeah, I'd like cleaved an entire line down. I just I'm impaled, because I'm impaled now. So I was getting everyone in that perfect little point there. I was just impale, and I was getting through everyone, and I was like, I need to keep a hero point for stay with me, because that is stay with me in this fight was very powerful because of that venom.
Remind people
for those
what
that don't know, sorry,
I was just gonna prompt you there.
Oh, right. For those who don't know, stay with me. If somebody is down on 0 hit points and they are bleeding out, you do 5 seconds of role play, which could literally be saying, stay with me. This is not the day that you die, etc. And you stop them from bleeding out and you bring them back to 1 hit point. So obviously under the effects of venom, you want to get there quick. And I was like, I am keeping that stay with me close, because I might need it for somebody.
Yeah. Before we got to the crush as well, or I'm saying it wasn't actually a crush, we didn't have a crush, but before we got to the big death donut,
it was a death donut, yeah.
Yeah, we lost a Mortaire as well. Like Mortaire was just had gone past the point of no return. Still just terminal basically. So that was horrific, and it was just like, right, we've got to get. He's a senator as well, so you've got to try and get him home. And it was so after we moving through the woods, there came a point where they did literally move aside to let us get onto the breach, right? So that was, and it was still very just like we were shuffling forward, going to the gate. And this was nasty. This was really nasty. This was
horrific.
So we came through the gate onto the open field, and there was like bodies scattered everywhere. There was like Varushkan and Uruzeni bodies scattered everywhere, along with Druge bodies. People walked up to the bodies, the Imperials, and the Druge bodies stood up because they were playing possum, which is within the rules, by the way. They stood up and then started shanking people as we came through. And because we were slowly coming through, because we had, loads of people trying to get across that bridge, there's not a lot of us coming on, and it was a hot field. Then there was Druge starting to run at us from across the field as well, from the opposite side. So we're like, oh my god, so the first of us that are out being like, okay, we might survive this because we're the first out into the open field to go home. We're just met with another wave of enemies, and we're also getting attacked as we're coming out,
Yeah. At this point, you and I I ended up positioning myself like at the actual breach itself, because people were like making their way, and I was making sure like that information was passed, that everybody, you're coming out onto a hot field. So be prepared, have your potions ready now. And you were reminding every single person that went past, because going out into the field, you could get rid of that effect of venom if you had the right herbs, the right potions on you. So it was a case of take them the second you get through this breach, so you are ready to fight. Okay.
Yeah, because there wouldn't have been anything worse than going, and I think this did happen, unfortunately, to a
It
lot of
happened.
people.
Yeah.
You went out and you're no longer on the miasma, but I was just, because I almost forgot for a split second, I forgot. I was like, when I saw a few people getting shanked, basically, coming through that gate and then attacking, and I'm like, crap, and then I was like, oh, damn, I'm still under the effect of venom, so I quickly grabbed 2 blood harrow filters and I took one and gave one to you. I was just
Yeah.
like, remember, take you don't want to be dying from venom now.
Now. Yeah, exactly. Like
Oh,
we're out of it now.
yeah.
So we managed to get everyone coming through the gate. And we did, there was so many bodies. There was Adonish bodies on the ground. There was a lot of Imperial Orcs bodies on that ground as well as we came through. And there was a few people I heard being like, we have to leave them. We just have to go. We're going to have to leave them. And I remember turning around being like, no one is leaving anyone. You know, you're heading down there, you pick someone up and you take them with you. You know, everyone is taking someone. We've got to get these bodies back, because if the bodies don't get brought back, people can't be terminal, you can't get that role play. And it is important, like out of character, I feel like it is really important for people to get that chance to have that like goodbye role play. So like, no, pick everyone up, everyone needs to be brought back. So we got a lot of the bodies picked up, and we're coming around, like the dad was still with me, he was fine. So he'd been fighting the whole time, he was having a great time. Well, actually, he said he preferred monstering, and I was like, to be fair,
I'm not surprised. It was.
yeah. But he was like, we were coming through, and I was like, right, we're going to just have to, this entire side of the field's clear. We need to just sweep everyone around. And he was like, oh, what about that big group up there? And I was like, okay, technically you can't see them because they've got their hands up. And I looked up and I saw a EMU. Definitely this big chunky EMU standing at that gate ready. They're all standing with their hands up. And I was like, right, if someone's got their hands up, you can't see them. And he was like, so, but we know they're there, but do we still go around this way? I said, this is the most logical path for us to take. We need to bring everyone round and down here, even though we know out of character, they might come running down. This is the most logical path that we need to take if we want to kill all the Druids on this side. So we're going to have to do it. Like, I thought it was crazy. You know, I was like, it makes, so we're going to sweep around here. They're only going to send them if they feel like they need to send them also. And I don't think they needed to send them. So was a horrendous fight. And this is when it was supposed to be a fighting retreat. It was not a fighting retreat. People full on bolted from that gate down to the Sentinel Gate. So it was no longer a fighting retreat. We were getting slaughtered.
Yeah, it's what you call a rout, basically. Where it's yeah, like in this type of combat situation, it's basically when people. It's not a term that we like to use because it basically means you're like just cowardly running away. just like
that's what happened.
Just run. Yeah. I mean, because basically, so my version of this of what happened here. We started making our way down. Once enough of us, we had a big clump through the gate. Then we started making our way down to the the exit, back to the where the Sentinel Gate would be, out of character on the field. So we as we're walking down there, we're then running up to make sure that there's a rear guard, and someone comes and grabs me, and they still have Lucan, who's terminal, and they were like, "Oh, Lucan wants a mortar to take him home." So there was that moment was just like you were like, "Take him," and then you ran off to the back,
Yeah.
and I'm like carrying Lucan, and we're like making our way to the exit, and then people start like running like a freaking Godzilla movie, start like running past us, and Lucan's just like, Damon, just drop me if you need to drop me. And I'm just like, no, no, no. But also I'm like, oh my God. And I see like just this horrendous rout happening. And I just see these Druids coming out of the woods and start attacking on all sides, and I'm like,
Literally
Oh my god. It was just it was like something out of a horror, like a monster movie. Like it was horrendous. And we got through the gate, and I'm like, Damon would be like, I trust that everyone back there, because basically I saw a load of Dornish lances go up to do the rear guard, and yeah, I saw like Orzel and I think you know what, I'm not going to name all the lances because I'll miss
No.
I'll miss someone out. I'll miss someone out. But basically, like a few like heroic Imperials went to do that, to go and fight on that rear guard, and unfortunately, a lot of them lost their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was horrific. So you turned to me and you said, I need to take my uncle home. And I said, yes, you do. Go. I've got your back. And as you went, I ran back to the rear guard because I was like, well, I can see Orzel there. I'm going to go join them. I'm going to do what I can. And I ended up doing a lot of up and down sort of thing because I was like, right, it's when I noticed the Druids were coming out of the woods. They were also coming out the top. They were also somehow coming out of the trees to the side as well. They were surrounding us and they were running at us. And we were so tapped out. Out of character, we were exhausted as well. So I ended up just doing a lot of like, no, do not run. This is a fighting retreat, trying to stop people running. And I realized the only people that weren't running was those lances that were like, no, we're going to stay here. We're going to fight. We're going to slowly move out and we're going to save everyone. And it got to the point where it was myself, because I I chucked Lachlan and Coops through the gate so they'd be safe. So they were gone. It was myself, Zoran, and Arcavian. And the three of us were standing there. We also had House Vexiel there. And we stood there with our backs to the gate. This was bizarre. We had our backs at the actual Sentinel gate itself, like one misstep, and we were through that gate. And we were fighting as the Druids were pushing us against this gate because we were like, no, we need to stay fighting. If we can push them back, we can get more Imperials through. So we were doing that. We were pushing them back, and I mean like a foot away from the gate, so that people could get in behind us and just run. And from both our sides, people were running by us and getting to that gate. And I was like, this is working. We've got this. We can do this. We need to keep going. And when the Druids came right up to me, and I was like, they're going to get me. I was down to my final like hit points at this point as well. I'd been hit a lot. And then Zoran puts his arm out and just shucks me through the gate. And I go flying through the gate as Zoran and Arcavian stay there. Boy, was I angry. I was furious. But a couple of us just went out of character because it is out of character between that gate and then like the main gate. So we just stood there and we waited. We're waiting until Zoran or Arcavian come through because this is going to be quite fun going through the gate with them coming through. But as we were standing there, this was absolutely horrific. We stood there and then we saw Imperials running out of the forest, like running out of the woods, trying to get through this field. And I do believe that there was a big group of them that I think some of the refs had literally said, yeah, you are still alive. Run. It's your only option. A lot of them did make it through because I think the Druids weren't expecting Imperials to come running from the trees behind them. But a lot of them didn't. A lot of them were running and they just got cut down. There was some vicious attacks going through there, like seeing Imperials running and just hearing the word cleave shouted. And I was like, oh, come on. And there was no way of getting them. And we literally stood there and watched each one die because we're not there. And eventually Arcavian Zoran come through. And then we got to have a bit of interesting roleplay coming through the gate where Nymeria, we like chucked like Nymeria back and like with enough force to come running down. And then I had Nymeria like shouting and like taking out her sword and turn around being like, I'm going to kill him. How dare he push me through this gate? You know, all of her anger from this battle was at Zoran. every single thing went wrong in her head at that point. Her anger was there. And then Fark grabbed a hold of her and took her swords off her. And there's a picture where Fark is got her like tight, and she is like going to kill someone, and it's just Fark holding her. And then one of the most emotional roleplay moments, it's up there in the top 5, I think, was Starash, where he comes up to her and he puts his arms around her and is like, no, this is not about Saran. And she just full on tears and crying, and she's got her head into him, and she's like, my uncle, he's gone. And then Starash is like, 6 members of her family are gone. And it was just it was horrific. Freaking Lachlan next to me, well, Ash next to me at this point, like, I can't do this. This was so intense. My dad walked away for a bit. It was horrific.
Yeah, and just that was the thing. It was a lot of it. I mean, even for me, and it's funny. Obviously, like, our characters are very different now from what they were. So, like, I was just like, obviously, I took Luke into the Glory Square, but by the time I got there, people were already, like, it was already full. You know what I mean? We were early-ish out, and it was already, the Glory Square was already full. It was shades of when Godric and Aranel died, but even worse.
Yeah.
And it was, to be honest, I barely even, there was so many bodies, and what hurts even more in character is that, and out of character, is that a lot of the people that were gone didn't make it back. They because of that, just retreat and how we left the field, and you started hearing about people that didn't make it back. I mean, like, literally, that there were people that already, the square was full, and there were people walking around being like, none of my house have. There were people, non-coms, that hadn't taken the field, were walking around being like, none of my house has come back. Have you seen my house? And we were all like, because we were all in the same mindset, because everyone had just gone completely snowblind and blinking and just like, get out, get out, get out, get out. So many people were just like, I'm sorry, we don't know. And at that point, you guys still weren't back, and we were just like, there was still so many dead, and people were coming up being like, have you seen such? Have you seen? I'm like, no. I don't know whether they got out. I don't know. It was rough. It was really rough.
It was.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to get up to you. From the moment I saw you last. Considering I was just behind you, it took a long time for us to actually get to the square.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, I had several conversations by the time you got to me. I wasn't panicking at all, but I think Belikov actually came up to me and was just like, "Where's Nymeria?" And I'm like, "Not back yet." Last time she was in the rear guard, And, but yeah, that was when it was just like, I think he was one of many people that was like, this needs to end, Damon. Like, we've messed about with the Druids for too long. We keep pushing them out, and they keep coming in, and this keeps happening again and again and again. So yeah, like, Death to the Druge is back in style, everyone.
Death to the Druge.
Because at first we were
like, loud and proud.
yeah, we were just like, screw it, Death to the Druge.
Yeah, we literally, like, by the time I got back and I got to the Glory Square, and I was just like, it was so full.
Yeah.
Of so many people.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was a percentage thing, wasn't it? Because like, people kept asking, how did you lose any? And we were like, well, we lost 1, but we fielded 5 of us, and pretty much everybody lost 1/5 of their lands.
Yeah.
On average.
Exactly. Yeah. We almost lost, like, so we lost the Night Protector of Spring.
Mm-hmm.
We almost lost the Night Protector of Autumn, because
they were in the rear guard, weren't
they? Well, they were one of the ones that was kind of told, right, run if you can get out, and they just scraped through, because they were counted as one of the dead for quite a long time, until eventually they did actually appear. Yeah, we almost, like, yeah, it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific.
We lost some big names as well. We lost
we did.
We lost yeah, so some characters that have been mentioned on this podcast, some of the podcast guests. We lost Cecilia de Gavain. I guess we should give that because Becky was our most recent. No, one of our most recent guests on the podcast was Becky, and she talked about Cecilia's test of ardor with the egregore. So
Lady Griffin-Spain.
Lady Griffin-Spain. So and she talked in detail. So she did pass the test of ardor in the end. They did get married.
got married in the Glory Square,
yeah,
on her deathbed.
Because they were going to have like an engagement party at E1, you know, in winter, like she was saying on the podcast, but yeah, unfortunately came back, didn't make it, came out terminal, got married. We lost a few members of the House de Gavain, actually, right? We lost Charge. We lost Mercy, who was a troubadour that had a big role in like Godric and Aranel's story. Dave has been on the podcast before.
We lost the minstrel.
We lost one of our egregores. There was a few of them that I was just like, wait, what? We lost them, you know?
We lost year one members.
Yeah. Colwyn Durondale.
Yeah.
Was like,
and if you want to read a story, it's gonna make you cry. Go read his post in the Dawn Facebook group because it is emotional.
Yeah. Oh man, who like we lost. So the numbers at what when we last? It was like 100, 102, 103 or something.
From Dawn, I was told 98 confirmed, but there's a lot. There's still unconfirmed.
Yeah.
There's still those unconfirmed. There's still those bodies in Thurunin.
Yeah.
So I was told 98 characters gone from Dawn.
From Dawn alone.
They're all going to come back as angry changelings with the vendetta.
Yeah. Wild. So yeah, there was emotional goodbyes. Obviously, because we lost a house member, we lost Lucan. Very emotional goodbyes.
Lucan.
Yeah.
I ended up like, so I'd had a conversation with the Reaper quite a while ago, and we spoke about love and about how much it matters in the end when it comes to Labyrinth. And the conversation, obviously, not a lot could have been said because there was a lot of priests around. And Nymeria kind of read between the lines, but she hasn't said it to anyone because it could be like a heretical. But she whispered into his ears, that he will find his love in the Labyrinth because love does matter in the end. And she essentially said that love was one of the truest virtues at the end. She's like whispering it into his ear, so that she didn't get killed, okay?
Heresy.
But yeah, Nymeria does believe that. So she wanted him to know that at the end.
Yeah.
I think she literally said, I can tell you this now because, well, you ain't going to tell the militia, are you?
Yeah. Well, like so he had in his backstory that he'd married into House Mortaire. So he'd like married one of my uncles, and the way that his uncle had died had been basically we were attacked in the Barrens when Daemon was just a fresh-faced noble taking control of the Mortaire knights in the Barrens years and years ago, and unfortunately his husband lost his life, and so we had a bit of an emotional like, I'm sorry, like it was my fault, and it was like, no, it wasn't your fault, and we had a big old cry, and it was something else actually. And there's no point in going through other people that we lost because there was so many of them.
There was so many.
We'd be here forever.
Everyone lost someone.
Yeah. Wild.
And this wasn't just in Dawn, but I think we lost the most by quite a long way.
But I mean,
we always do, don't we?
I was pissed. Like Damon was absolutely pissed. I mean, Damon's going through like you know, because I think I'd already described in this podcast before. Like he comes from a house that is very much about accepting death as an inevitability, and I think he thought he had accepted it, but I think he's just been in denial, and now he's like, how come death doesn't come to the enemies? Like, why is it inevitable for us? Why isn't it inevitable for them? You know. So yeah, he's getting a little bit pissed off, and I was very upset during like military council and things like that. That was a bit of a somber thing. The battle's been called a couple of things. Been called the Sweet Blade Massacre.
I think that's the main one that people
the
are
Field Marshal
going
called
for.
it that. Zoran gave a speech, as he does in military council, called it the Battle of Fallen Petals or something, because we lost so much.
The Battle of Scattered Petals,
Scattered
I think
Petals,
it was. Scattered Petals,
something like that. Absolutely meant. Yeah, I remember when we were reading the Butcher's Bill. Obviously, like everyone lost. I think Urizen lost the least. But again, they're a smaller nation. But yeah, the Orcs.
Oh, the Imperial Orcs. Oh my god.
Yeah, what they lost like more than half of their what they fielded.
They
right?
went out. Correct me in the chat, but I'm sure they went out with 27 and they came back with 17.
Yeah,
like they lost 10, but they didn't field a lot. And they were there with us at the end. Because when we came back through the gate, they were all there with us at the end. So I don't know if they did split off or what happened, but
although I mean there were a lot of gasps. Like you know, there were a lot of like, how many? You know, and then Barushka lost a load. Navarre obviously lost a lot, and then when
I think Navarre was in the 40s. Correct me if that has changed, but I'm sure they were up in the 40s.
Yeah, because I think they had a solid number when they were starting to be asked, and then when they asked Dawn were like,
at that point we were like, we're still counting. We're in the 70s, but we're still counting.
And everyone was like, oh my god, you know.
And then like as the council went on, it was like, oh, we've got an updated number. We're now in the 80s. We're now in the 90s. Like it's going to keep going.
Yeah,
we can't keep up. We've got one person running around with a notebook. We can't keep up with how many we have lost at this point.
Yeah,
come back to us in the winter, basically.
yeah. So I don't know if there's anything more to say. I mean, like, so you know, storyline wise, we got the job done. We stopped the ritual, which was good. So I mean, the field marshal did a great job, because it was one of those things. It was like we obviously all analysed it after the fact, but literally nobody. I've not seen anybody point to a specific thing and been like, "Oh, that's what went wrong." Nah. It was just a bastard of a battle. It was
awful.
It was horrible, and it was just like, you know, we got the job done, but I don't know. The only way it could have been, we could have done anything wrong, would have been if we hadn't done the objective. Like, that was the thing, and we got all the objective. We got the hard objective was stopping the early ritual, which we did. But even if we'd got there late and only done one objective, we still would have been in the same position. I couldn't see it happen any other way that would have been. I mean, apart from like micromanaging every unit and being like, that if that was there, that was there, that was there, that was there. But you couldn't point to a single like group, a single nation, anything to be like, oh yeah, that's what caused the issue. You know, it was just horrible. You know, it was just bad.
E3 was my favorite battle that I have ever fought in the entire time that I have been at Empire. E4 was the worst battle I've ever fought in, and that includes when Godric and Arnell died.
I mean,
that was the worst battle I have ever been part of.
I mean, it was sort of type 2 fun as well. Like, it was basically some of these battles, like E3 was a bit more like Lord of the Rings, you know, Battle of Helm's Deep. It's intense, but it's like heroic and it's inspiring. This one was more like, you know, Game of Thrones, Battle of the Bastards. Like, no, this is war is horror. You know, that's what it was like. It was like
a lot of people described it as Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah,
especially in that moment we were all in the middle. But no one ever came. No. We didn't get that moment at the end.
Yeah, no.
It was we got out, but it was absolutely horrific. But yeah, so after that, That's what the counts were happening. They were almost at the end of Sunday now.
Yeah.
Now there's something with Nymeria. She does not have winter magic cast upon her. She swore an oath to House Sarzel when she became noble there, that she would never, like she would fight to destroy the power of winter. And it's something that I've stuck with her as a character choice. That's a full year of playing her now, and the whole house is aware of it. But we were standing. It was Nymeria, Damon, Zoran. We were all standing at the Vexfield tent, and we just went, screw it. We're doing everything we can to eradicate the Druge.
Yeah.
And that's the moment when Nymeria went, do it. Cast whatever you need onto me.
Yeah, it was weird because like we had already we talked about, because you know the coven can do Clarion Call of Ivory and Dust, which is a for non-magic people and non-empire people, it is a ritual that adds basically forces to your military unit, so it like ups the rank of it, so you get a load of soldiers from Kayla's Grim Legion, which is funny because obviously it was thematic because we met Kayla this event, and we were like, so we already talked about doing it because a few of us in the house have got military units. We were like, oh no, it's actually worth doing because you only get 2 ritual slots per day, right? So especially, so a lot of the time you want to Friday, Saturday, you're like, you don't really want to do it then, but Friday, Saturday, you've got like competing ideas for what you want to use those rituals for. Sunday is going to be for like buffing military units, armies, resources, things like that. So we were like, we don't do anything on the coven never actually cast anything on the Sundays, so we may as well like get Clarion Call, and we'd already thought about that as a way to make money. But we were like, no, this is thematic, and we
advertisement, everyone.
Yeah. So we we had already talked about it, and we were like done because it was almost the end of the event. And it wasn't like Osric came from like Wintermark. It was just like, oh, can you guys do Clarion Call? And we were like, I was like, we were actually thinking about doing it, and they were like, oh well, if if you can do it, I'll that would be great if you could do it for me as well. And I was like, well, and then we all just like got into gear, didn't we? With like 10 minutes till time out to be like, right, let's do this.
This was hilarious. Okay, so we didn't have Morgan. Now Morgan's one of our most like powerful members of the coven as well. So we were like, can we even do this? Like, do we have enough people here who can do it? And we're sitting there and we're doing the maths. This is 10 to 3. Okay, we're doing the maths. We're trying to figure it out. And Dad's sitting there, and I kind of stopped. I was like, he's got 9 points to spend, and Demigod is there. The one thing that Dad had said at the start of this, like, yeah, I'll come and try everything. I'm not doing that weird magic stuff though. And I turned to him, I was like, you up for doing the weird magic stuff? He was like, yeah, let's do it, whatever. So
it was quite funny because you were like, what about him? Pointing to your dad, and like Killian's like, what do you mean, what about him? He's like, he could get up to rank like 3. Like,
he could get to rank 3.
He hasn't got any points spent, you know.
This is a second event, you know. He's got it sitting there. So they ran him to Demigod, and the if we didn't have Demigod there, we wouldn't have been able to do this before timeout. So we ran him to Demigod. Al took Dad to there, and they spent all his points. We ran back up, and then we got all the mana together. We all went to Demigod, and we just were like, it's almost timeout. It's like 2 minutes to 3. And they went, and we said to them, can we just go ahead and put all this into the system now, and then we'll do the role play after? And they were like, yeah, go for it. So we like did all that, and then Dad had to stand there, and he stood there, he held his hand out, he did the role play, he said death to the Druge.
Yeah. No, it was it was fun because obviously we had to do it twice because Osric wasn't part of our banner, so we kind of did two runs through, but it was a cool end to the weekend where we ended up just being like, death to the Druge, and Nightmaria's finally got some winter rituals cast on it, and we are going to be like, House Mortaire is now buffed with a load of Kayla's soldiers.
We are so buffed, and we're all off to kill Druge now.
So we're all heading off to Thrunin.
Yep.
not the Barons, but Tharunin, to go kill some Druj.
I heard what you said there.
Yeah. So I mean that's the end of the event. I will say so. Since then, there's been some interesting stuff going on in the winds. We've had the winds out. So the one of the sects in the Barons, which are like orc tribes that live in the Barons, but they're not imperial. So when we kick the Druj out and it's become an imperial territory, the Barons, there is a load of like locals that hang around. The Ravin are one of them. They currently are occupying a mithril mine, which would be worth a lot. So for the past year, we've been backwards and forwards, being like, right, okay, what do we do about them? Because they're foreigners, they're not barbarians, so they are protected as foreigners. So it's illegal to go and attack them. And we've tried to get treaties done with them. We've tried to basically, coerce them into being Imperials and following the way and all sorts. Anyway, one of our generals of a Dornish army, their orders were to go in and basically kick the Ravin out, and if they met any resistance, to kill them. So that's caused a little bit of a stir since the last
Just
event.
a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, the Empress isn't happy. This is all in the winds of war. This is all on this isn't conjecture.
Yeah, it's all there.
This isn't conjecture from us. This is all the stuff that's on the PD wiki. So the Empress isn't happy. Has condemned the actions of the general. And there is a couple of downtime options. Like I said, we're fighting in Thrudin. We're not getting involved. But there's wow, this is an interesting topic. So so there's two downtime options. There's one to you can obviously support an army, so you can actually support that Dornish army that is going to kick the Ravin out. Or
they're just going on a walk.
Yeah, just going on a walk.
They're just going for a walk through the Barrens, okay?
I gave no such order. I'm just going on a walk, and these are my 3,000 armed bodyguard. So there's also an option in the downtime that you can go and help the Ravin, but that does also mean you're going to be fighting and killing Dornish soldiers, your Imperials. We'll leave it at that, shall we? Because that's going to be.
We'll leave it at that and not put our obvious opinions forward.
Our obvious what? I totally missed what you said there.
I said we'll leave it at that and not put our obvious opinions forward.
Obvious opinions forward. Yeah, let's because that's going to be way more interesting to talk about. After E1.
A little Just a wee reminder, though. I think I've said this a few times on the podcast. All these characters, all these people who are playing generals, who are playing the Emperor, who are playing anyone, there's real people behind them. So let's keep that in mind when we are targeting people, especially online. I know that PD and a lot of the Discords have really cracked down on this to be like, right, no, we need to remember that there's real people behind these decisions. So let's not let this become an out of character situation.
Yeah.
But if you want to know what I think in character, feel free to come and ask next event.
Yeah. I think we're both, neither of us are like very black and white on the whole thing. It's a really cool thing. It's a really cool thing that the general in question did, and it's caused a lot of really cool like in character drama.
It's cool. It's fun.
Yeah,
because there's so much drama.
Yeah, and stir it up a bit. One opinion I will share though, like, is that one of the main reasons I'm happy that it's happened because it's fun is because I got to admit the Baron storyline is getting a little bit stale for me. I sometimes feel like the Marchers and that get a little bit better storylines over on the other coast, over on the other well, technically, yeah, the other side of the Empire. I think it's a bit more interesting over there. I feel like the Barons is getting quite kind of like stagnant. It's just like, oh yeah, we took it from the Druge, and it was years of just like, Fighting the Druids. Oh, these sects have joined the Druids. Now they've got more armies. Oh, push them in, push them out. Blah, 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 this, that, the other. And now we finally got it. And now it's just like, oh, right, cool. Oh no, the Druids are back. Oh no, we have to, make these locals happy. It's a little, for me, it's a little bit
Yeah.
like nah. So I'm glad that there's a little bit of spice being thrown in it. To be honest. Anyway, is there anything else we want to say about E4 before we go?
Honestly, I think that's wrap for E4.
Yeah.
It was a spicy ending anyway. There's a lot going on with the house at the minute. We now have this huge fighting force, and we have all gone to the same place together, and we're all supporting the same army, which I think is quite cool. And I'm really looking forward to see what comes for that. But yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, awesome. Right, make sure you look after yourselves. If you did lose your character, that drop can be pretty hard when you lose a character. We know what it's like. But yeah, we'll look forward to E1. It's been a good, I think, a good year at Empire.
Yeah.
We had really good every event. We had our big anniversary party. We had terrorizing battles. We had epic battles. We had some real good Night Protector winter moments. You winning that tournament by an absolute landslide. That was an amazing moment. We've got to do some real cool things this year. Looking forward to what next year brings. Cool. Right. So I guess I'll do the finishing up housekeeping. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a thumbs up. Comment down below if you were part of that crazy battle E4. Did you have a good year at Empire this year? Are you coming to Empire next year for your first ever Fest LARP? Let us know in the comments if you are listening to us on an audio platform. Give us those stars. Go check out ways to support us as well down in the show notes and the description. We have a discount code for Empire if you want £15 off your first ticket. We have a Patreon as well if you want to go check that out. With that, we will say we love you very much and stay safe. Right, bye everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.